Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have another retrograde analysis problem I'd like to share with you. This is one I composed, and if you can solve it, it means you're a genius. All right. I'm joking, of course. Retrograde analysis. If that phrase is foreign to you, first check out the links I have in the description. I've already covered a couple problems of this type. This one here I'm calling quads. What's the story? Well, during the game, Black captured White's rook on a dark square. Who exactly captured it? And on what dark square was it captured? To quote Ben Kingsley in the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer, don't unpause the video until you see it. I think that's how the quote went. Okay, right about now would be the perfect time to pause the video and try and work this one out on your own. And when you return, I'll of course share the solution. Okay, I'm assuming you're back in unpause mode. A couple observations. First, a little attention to the title, quads. I didn't want to give anything away. Quads is short for quadrants. I believe if you are to solve this, your eye needed to be pulled to all quadrants of the board, at least some of the squares in each. And with this, I believe it's very easy to be fixated in just one area of the board. These squares in particular, why am I highlighting these? Well, these are the only squares that the white rook, who started on A1, could have ever moved to. It couldn't go anywhere else but these squares. At some point or another, we could see the king and the queen get out of the way. So while these two are currently occupied, the rook could still have made use of these squares at some point, really wanted to. So this is going to sound a little strange, but the white rook, that started out on A1, it could have never exited this area, nor could any rook enter this area of the board. Okay. Our focus may also turn even more narrow. Of these squares, the dark squares probably come to mind. After all, we're told Black captured White's rook on a dark square. How do we make heads or tails of these three dark squares? How do we know if it was captured on A1, C1, E1? Hang on. We need to take a step back, have a glimpse view of this problem, make additional observations. Here's one. The E pawns and G pawns. What can we say about them? They never moved. Sounds simple enough. Similarly, that implies the king bishops never moved. Great, they're still there. Notice the B pawns and D pawns. They too have never moved. What does that mean? It means the queen bishops never moved. Now, the queen bishops aren't on C1 and C8. What does that mean? They were captured at some point on C1 and C8. What is the story then with this guy? That's what we call a promoted bishop. There's two missing black pawns, an A pawn and an F pawn. One of those two must have been promoted to the light square bishop. Which one is it? Well, there's a missing white knight, white rook, and white pawn. This pawn, in order for it to try and get all the way over here, that would take more than 3 captures. The only try is to maybe come down to F2. The king's going to have to first get out of the way. He could get as far as, let's say, F2, and then from there, what do? You can't get to F1 and produce a light square bishop. This guy's in the way. What does this mean? Black's A pawn was eventually promoted to the light square bishop. How was the A pawn promoted to a light square bishop? Well, it must have been promoted on the B1 square. And before it was on B1, it was on A2. and before it was on A2, it was on B3, right? It needed to make this particular capture. It couldn't go from B2 to B1. So it had to make a capture on A2 and B1. How did it get to the B3 square? Well, we're not sure just yet. One of these captures, right, maybe captured on B6 and then moved forward to get to B3, but what we know for sure is that there was a capture on A2, on B1, and one of these 4 squares, there was also a capture. Let's look at these two a little more closely. A2 and B1. We know that the white rook could have never left this area of the board. The A pawn needed to make 3 captures in order to produce a light square bishop. Needed to be converted to the B file, then the A file, and then the B file. The A pawn made all 3 captures. So, what does this mean? It means this knight was captured on A2 or B1, and the rook that started on A1 was captured on A2 or B1 in some order, right? Knight A2, rook B1, or switched. Are you confused yet? There's only one remaining capture, the F pawn. Now, how did the F pawn get over here to be captured? Well, it didn't. We know that the white rook that started on A1 was captured on A2 or B1 at this stage. We're told black captured white's rook on a dark square. What does this mean? It means this F pawn was promoted to a rook. So, one of these squares is where it was captured. Which of these 2 squares was that rook captured? Could only be one of them. Now, I'm going to play this one out. We could see this in action. I'm not showing the most efficient approach to get to that final position, but I'm doing this for for clarity reasons. I think this is one of the clearer ways to demonstrate this. First, a little bit of house cleaning. The F pawn was captured. We know the queen bishops were captured at some point, so let's get that out of the way. And this F pawn is going to have to promote to a rook and be captured again on one of these squares to convert the A pawn to the B file. So the king gets out of the way, and so too does the queen, and we get as far as F7. Now, a black knight was also captured. I could have mentioned that early on. Was the knight captured on G8 to produce the rook? No. If the rook was produced on this G8 square, it would be stuck now in this section of the board. It could never leave. So it was in fact captured on E8 and a rook was produced. And notice that because of this arrangement, what I have highlighted, they never moved. So this rook right here could have never gotten out like this. So it needed to make use of this A8 square at some point. This pawn needed to move not just 1 square, but 2 in order to release this rook. And we can see now that because it needed to go 2, the only way that this pawn could make a capture is now on this B4 square. And from here, it is just a matter of setting the pieces up in position to be captured. The king and queen go back home, and we're just ready for a series of captures. We're told during the game black captured white's rook on a dark square. Who exactly captured it, and on what dark square was it captured? It was the A pawn who captured the rook on B4. That's the dark square the white rook was captured on. So there we go. Capture 1, capture 2, capture 3, and we just go back to this starting position after bishop to G6. How'd you do with this one? Did you get this one right? Be honest in the comments below. Also, maybe even share how long you spent trying to solve this one. Were you anywhere close to getting this? This is a little bit more involved than the first two. I shared. Anyhow, feel free as usual to leave any feedback, and hopefully you found this maybe a little bit fun. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.